Our story starts with a man sitting on a throne, and we are told that in this vast universe there are many dangerous creatures. To complicate matters, every 1,000 years a disaster comes to this divine land. We also find out that this time the earth will turn into hell, and that only the winner of the Tian Gang tournament has a chance to stop the disaster. A boy with an angry face tells the sitting man that he knows what he has to do. Then the scene cuts to the modern world, and we meet our protagonist Chang Tian, who tells us about his life. He is 20 years old and he is in his second year of college. He lives with his parents and his hobby is sinology, which is the study of Chinese language, history, and customs. His mother calls him to dinner, but he ignores her and his father is forced to fetch him. His father knows all about his side gig of reading people's fortunes and scolds him for that. In retaliation, he gets cheeky with his dad and just misses getting kicked to the face because his dad answers a phone call. His dad has a book signing to go to as he is a famous sinologist himself, like father like son, and says he will be gone for 2 weeks. Chang Tian thinks his dad underestimates him and says he can really read people's fortunes. He Googles a library with sinology books nearby and finds one close by. When he gets there, the place is deserted, but he goes in. Suddenly he starts to hear weird whispers and the lights start to flicker, so he runs out thinking that the place is haunted. Scared AF, he does manage to grab a book on his way out. He is happy with his book find, but his joy is short-lived. A girl runs into him as she tries to escape from a group of guys that are chasing her. They catch up with her and start going ham on her, and Chang Tian notices that the main guy, Li Cheng, studies at his college. He is afraid of him and he decides to run away, but sees that his book has fallen right at the feet of the gang. Crap. The bully finds the book and starts to mock Chang Tian and says that he will be keeping it as toilet paper. As if that wasn't enough, he calls Chang Tian a fortune-telling fraud. This gives Chang Tian the boost he needs to fight back, even if it's just for a second. He kicks him in the bums, grabs the book, and runs away. He runs for his life and manages to outrun him, or at least that's what he thought, because Mr. Bully Supreme catches up to him. But Chang Tian manages to duck just before getting hit and accidentally pantses the guy, and everyone around starts taking pictures of the sudden nudist. Pervert move, saves the day. Taking advantage of the distraction, he runs away once again. As he celebrates his escape, a deafening noise echoes around him, and out of nowhere a glowing barrier forms around him in the shape of a ball. He's confused, we're confused, and Mr. Bully Supreme enters the chat with a giant freaking warrior at his side. He says he erected a barrier and that there was no way for him to escape. He also says that he has a power far beyond human knowledge and makes the giant at his side throw Chang Tian around like a rag doll. Add in some magical chops and kicks to the body and Chang Tian is in bad shape. After more humiliations and insults, he tells the giant to finish him off. Chang Tian closes his eyes and says, "I don't want to die yet." When he reopens them, he's in a completely different place with glowing water under his feet and a giant gate in front of him. He wonders if he passed on. When he touches it, he hears a voice asking if he wishes to not die, and then with a flash of light, we are back in the fight zone with Bully Supreme and his giant enforcer. Then a light comes out of Chang Tian, and that light reveals a handsome long-haired man. This excites the giant, who says that he hasn't had a good fight in years and that now he finally was going to have some fun. By the way, they are weapons because the giant says he is a Xuan level sword and asks what weapon he is. Long-haired bro replies that he didn't deserve to know and that would finish him off easily. And as it was said, so it was done. He dodges some attacks from the giant, who calls himself Long K Ring Sword. Mystery Guy stops the sword attack with just one finger. He carries Chang Tian to safety and heals his wounds with just one touch. Chang Tian tells this Mr. Mystery, who just saved him, to be careful because a powerful attack was coming as the giant launches a blast with his sword that ends up missing them by miles. This man, the handsome stranger, then asks Chang Tian if he was prepared because he was the one who summoned him. He then throws a gigantic glowing energy ball at the giant, defeating him and leaving a crater on the spot. This man is surprised that Chang Tian could summon him, having so little spiritual power. But he doesn't understand what he's talking about and is just happy that now his father will see him differently and maybe even be proud of him now that he has this sacred holy weapon. That bully, who was the giant's master, starts running away. He's seriously hurt and ends up falling and then disintegrating, and a mysterious girl says she finally found something with a slight smile. The scene cuts with Chang Tian having a dream where he kisses his holy weapon. Kissing his weapon is weird, and as we don't know his name yet, I'll just call him that, and wakes up screaming in despair. Looking to the side, he realizes that his holy weapon was sleeping naked with him in bed, making him scream loud enough to scare the birds. He complains to the weapon for the unexpected nudity, calls him hentai, and then the scene cuts to them on the street, and Chang Tian asking his name and imagines that he was a strong weapon for having so easily defeating that giant, but he says he didn't remember that, and that his memory loss was a sign that his master was very weak and practically rubbish. Burn! Chang knows little to none about what's going on. Chang Tian didn't even know what spiritual power is. The silly boy decides to call him White because he is wearing white. Weird. His mom calls him and says that a beautiful girl is waiting to see him. He quickly hides White and discovers that this girl says she is his classmate and her name is King Chu. She says the teacher asked her to bring him some schoolwork, but says she also wanted to talk to him in person, alone and outside. Sounds weird, but okay. That's suspicious. The two walk down the street, which isn't a very smart place to set up a conversation. This is definitely an ambush, but not a violent one. Two other people surround him, and she says she knew about him summoning a certain strange someone yesterday, and she knew that he didn't like his weapon, and his weapon didn't like him, so she asked Chang Tian to give White to her, but Mr. Mystery himself quickly appears and says that this was his decision to make, and for Chang Tian to be aware that this was no ordinary girl but a goddess. He approaches the goddess and begins to seduce her, calling her beautiful and asking if she was free to go to his house. One of the two other people who ambushed Chang Tian gets jealous and annoyed, demanding he stops bothering their mistress or he would teach him a lesson, but White teases him, almost inciting a fight that is interrupted by Chang Tian, who explains to the girl that he was not going to sell his weapon. He takes White away from all the drama. As they relax in Chang Tian's room, White finally explains just what the heck is going on. He says that in this world there is a Shang Yuan arsenal that appeared before humans existed and stores weapons from all time periods. Some were made by legendary blacksmiths, others wielded by heroes, and there are even the ultra-rare sacred holy weapons. He explains that they have 4 levels of classification, but according to legends, there is a secret level above all called Sacred Greater. He says that as he is beautiful and all-powerful, he is obviously a sacred weapon, but as he was invoked by a weakling, it has clouded his memory and given him limited powers equaling a level 3 weapon, and continues to say that people who can invoke weapons from this arsenal are called spiritual warriors. The scene cuts to that girl goddess from before called King Chu thinking to herself that spiritual warriors are people with spiritual powers, and that normally people with spiritual powers only appear in the nobility, and wonders how Chang Tian manages to have it too. She says that as a spiritual warrior, she has been preparing her whole life for the Tian gang trial, and then the scene goes back to Chang Tian's bedroom. White explains that the Tian gang trial is basically a battle royal where all the warriors and their weapons fight each other, and whoever wins would have the right to infinite desires or wishes fulfilled by the gods. Upon hearing this, Chang Tian gets excited and says he wants to try and win. Now back to our girl goddess. She says that she needs to win at all costs and would find a way to get White for herself, as she needs as many weapons as possible to ensure she gets the glory of God. She gets angry with Chang Tian and starts stalking and harassing him, calling him all hours of the day and night and writing various threats on the front door of his house. She even drops pamphlets from helicopters with slanderous rumors and unaliving threats and demands. This reaches a point where he meets her, but once again denies that he would sell his weapon to her because White was his partner and the two would participate in the trial, and with White's power level they would easily win. Upon hearing this, King Chu gets highly offended. After all, she trained her whole life for this tournament and tells him not to think that the test is a little game. Remember that guy who hangs out with her and who got so upset at White's attempted seduction of her? Well, he isn't just a part of her crew. He and the other redhead girl are her weapons, and she activates them to fight against Chang Tian, who activates his weapon or he activates himself. I don't know. All I know is every time someone insults Chang Tian, he gets flashes of his father berating him. Damn, talk about the effects of childhood trauma. Our boy's got daddy issues. Anyway, back to the scene. They keep arguing and then the fight begins. Soon the King Chu realizes that he is stronger than he looks, being at least a level 3 weapon. White says that the 2 weapons he was fighting were level 4, the highest. Chang Tian asks if he would be okay, and he replies that if it's for a moment he can withstand 2 level 4s. King Chang calls herself careless, saying that this weapon is much more powerful than it looks, and makes a worried face. The anime switches to a shot showing both Chang Tian and King Chu, both concentrating deeply, showing us how close the fight was. However, something unexpected happens. Out of nowhere, a strange guy appears with a confident face, asking if he should enter the battle as a Tianzin Hall representative, whatever that means. Haha. The scene cuts showing the context of this new mysterious guy's arrival. He and his brother converse about not being allowed to be there, but as long as they catch King Chu, they won't get into trouble. Then he jumps into battle just like in the previous scene, and his brother arrives there too. Apparently King Chu already knew him because she says she is fed up with being harassed by him, and he in response says that she continues to ignore their kindness, and even though their leader may tolerate it, he will not. He then turns to Chang Tian and mocks him, saying that his weapon wasn't even level 4, so he has no interest in it, and if he stayed out of their way, he would let him live. Chang Tian responds, saying that this Tianzin Hall looks like a place with many powerful weapons, and this one guy called O Tian Bro summons his weapon, a powerful level 4 weapon full of personality, even complaining about his master having summoned him before he could wash his face, and when he saw King Chu, his weapon was ashamed, thinking it was not presentable. Kigsing Long Yuan is the name of the weapon in thought. Chang Tian thinks that nobody knows the real power of White, so he should be able to handle it, and starts a speech citing 3 mistakes that O Tian Bro made. However, before listing the third and most critical, White interrupts him because found the whole speech to be rather boring, and he doesn't want to wait any longer to fight, and the action starts again. O Tian's brother invokes his weapon, who is called Yu Chang, and uses her against White. Meanwhile, King Chu's weapons fight against the weapon from O Tian Bro, the Kigsing Long Yuan. It's so hard to say these Chinese names, right? Such long and confusing names. Alright, back to the battle. I just know that the fight extends to the point where Chang Tian realizes that it would be bad to continue because all the weapons were running out of energy. King Chu also quickly realized their dilemma and asked her 2 weapons to use their ability and end the fight once and for all. They are the perfect duo. The male weapon uses his skill called Psycho Drain, which debuffs O Tian's weapon, while the woman debuffs White with her skill, thereby making them weaker. At least I think that's what happened. In a voiceover, the anime explains that in terms of combat melee, their attacks leave something to be desired, but their skills are all top of the line, and combined they are practically invincible. O Tian and his brother decide to withdraw because they were at a disadvantage, and Chang Tian, being the petty king that he is, teases him, saying that if he ran away now, he would let him live. O Tian, enraged, says that they would remember this insult and come back for revenge. White is sad, saying that he was about to use his true skill, and after the danger is gone, King Chu and Chang Tian form a temporary alliance, which leads to a very funny and cute moment between King Chu and Chang Tian. The scene cuts to the base of those who fled with O Tian. His brother and their weapons apologize for causing problems and not being able to defeat the mysterious weapon. Their leader asks who is the master of that weapon, and they answer that he is an unpredictable boy called Chang Tian, and that he heard that he gained his powers on the verge of death. The scene cuts to them in a restaurant. Talking about the same subject, King Chong explains that an invocation by death happens when a spiritual warrior is on the verge of death, in which case he can summon a weapon from the Shang Yuan arsenal. But most spirit warriors invoke in another way through a formal ceremony. And because King Chu's weapons are husband and wife, she managed to summon both with a single scroll. However, after invoking a level 4 weapon, a restriction applies, so she cannot summon another weapon of the same kind as a rejection may occur. After understanding, he asks what exactly the Tianzin Hall is and what they wanted. She says that as far as she knows, it has existed for a long time, hundreds of years, and was formed by weapons. The scene cuts back to the meeting happening in Tianzin Hall. Their conversations continued where we left off. They say that their objective is to recover all the weapons made by the man they call father. They say that he has a good relationship with King Chu's weapons, and that they should avoid fighting her as much as possible. Tian's brother, who was present in the battle before, says that King Chu, despite being 16 years old, has already become very powerful and is almost invincible since awakening as a spirit warrior and summoning 2 level 4 weapons. She definitely shouldn't be underestimated. Then, a girl who wasn't at the battle starts bad-mouthing her, calling her several rude names because she says King Chu only thinks about winning the Tiangang trial. But another character starts defending King Chu. He says that King Chu will probably unite with Chang Tian as it's hard to win if she's alone, and the scene cuts showing her inviting Chang Tian to join her. She explains that since he helped fight Tanzan Hall, they must have marked him and would now be going after him now too, so the two should join forces. She also explains that the tournament is dangerous because the warriors, when they lose their weapon, end up going to the underworld too, so they would be stronger together. Chang Tian makes a worried and surprised Pikachu face because he didn't know that your weapon losing a battle means that you lose your life. The episode ends with the guys from Tianzan Hall saying that now that the two joined forces, they should be even more careful in the trial. Also, a strange hooded man was eavesdropping on them from a tree outside. I also just realized the leader of Tianzan Hall reminds me of Dr. Evil, the way he sits and strokes his cat. And back at the diner, Chang Tian was still shaken by the fact that spirit warriors cease to exist when their weapons are defeated, meaning Mr. Supreme Bully from his college bit the dust at the same time as his giant back during their battle in the park. His weapon, White, doesn't mince words, and says that if he's scared, it's best to transfer him to King Chu and then go hide under a rock. That's brutal, bro. But Chang Tian mans up and declares he will participate. King Chu celebrates the beginning of their team and takes the two to her house. Arriving there, he is surprised to see that she lives in a mansion with many servants at her beck and call. Chang Tian, being the mama's boy that he is, says he needs to talk to his mother first, but when he opens the door, surprise, he sees that she was already there, waiting for him. He is very surprised and quickly gets embarrassed watching his mom enjoying herself, but King Chu says it's not a problem. She takes Chang Tian by the arm, says she needs to speak to him alone, and takes him to another room. She explains that she brought his mother there, fearing that their enemies would go after his relatives. She says that she invited his father too, but he seemed too busy to join them. Chang Tian quickly changes the subject. Damn those daddy issues. Anyway, she says that since she can only summon 2 level 4 weapons, she wanted Chang Tian to summon 1 more so that they would have better odds in the trial. He says he didn't have money for that, but King Chu was happy to play the investor and give him the funds. And so the summoning begins. He says the magic words and, oops, unfortunately he can only summon a little girl with power level 3, and when he sees her, White laughs at her but feels provoked by what she says, and the two almost fight. This weapon is called Fang Tian Huaji and says she served a general called Fang Xin, and Chang Tian says he knows all the historical facts about him. He was a great general and conqueror of his time, and hearing about her former master again, she is happy. She says that her greatest regret is not having been able to protect him, and that would not happen again with her current master. The maid enters and informs them that dinner is served. They are taken to the dining room where Chang Tian's mother has prepared a glorious meal consisting of several dishes that's so good it makes everyone's mouth water. After dinner, while walking on the grounds, they run into other weapons that Fang Tian seems to have a history with. And these weapons ask if King Chu had summoned her too. Suddenly she starts to tussle with one of the other weapons, and they have to be pulled apart. This whole debacle leaves Chang Tian rather sweaty, and out of nowhere a maid pops up and asks if they need a bath. Talk about 24/7 service with a smile. The scene cuts to King Chu taking a bath in the hot springs. She is forced to hide when she sees Chang Tian and White walking into the bathhouse. Both get into the water and Chang Tian ends up sitting on top of her thinking she's a comfy bench. But then he remembers that one should always shower before entering the hot springs, and he and White leave to do just that. She takes the opportunity to eavesdrop on their conversation. White asks why he's helping her, and he replies that even though he had a bad impression of her at first, he couldn't just sit by and watch 2 men bully a girl. Besides, she was worried about his family and invited his mother to her house to protect her, and he says he's very grateful to her for that, and that's why he will keep helping her. She gets all embarrassed, says that she doesn't need any help, and leaves. The scene cuts with Chang Tian's mother deciding to go back home. She explains that she had her shop to run and couldn't leave his father alone for too long. King Chu says she could come back whenever she wanted and jokes that she really wants to eat her food again. After his mother leaves, she tells Chang Tian that his weapon Fang Tian would be trained by her two weapons, the duo, while she had prepared a special training for him, and that White would rest and recuperate. The following scenes show him training, fighting, and learning as much as possible. The next scenes in the anime shows White lying on a medical bed with several tubes attached to his body. He was being examined by another weapon. This weapon says that even though he is a sacred weapon, if he continues to fight in this condition, it could be bad. He says he knows, but he has no choice. The scene cuts to the city with King Chu, Chang Tian, and the duo weapons heading to a sinology library. Chang Tian runs ahead excited. His excitement reminds her two weapons, the duo named Mo Yi the woman and Ganjiang the man, of their child, and the two end up feeling sad because they remember the son they had in their past life. This son suddenly appears behind them saying that they abandoned him in his past life and would abandon him again. His name is Mei Jianqi. When they see him, they imagine that he is the reincarnation of their son, and the boy invokes a weapon to attack them. The scene cuts to White Man telling Chang Tian to return to his training because enemies could attack him, and almost immediately after that White says he can feel a strong spirit power, and the scene quickly cuts to King Chu raising a magical barrier to battle. Their son says he has no problem removing them from the face of the earth as they had previously abandoned him. Ganjing says he would go first and assumes his battle form, then he starts defending himself against the attacks of the boy's mysterious weapon, who says it's impressed that he dodged the attack and calls itself an ancient weapon named Taigsu armor. After seeing her husband taking damage, Mo Yi also enters the battle, and as soon as they start fighting, King Cheng tells them to use their skill. They use it, but it has no effect on Taigsu, who blocks their attack as it is an upper-level weapon. By their shocked faces, it's clear to see that no one saw this coming. Taigsu imagines that this was their last resort and says he was disappointed because a last resort should be much more powerful and launches an ultra-strong attack to show how it should be. Bro looks devilish and laughs like a complete psycho while doing this. However, his master, the boy, ends up shouting at him because he almost hit him with that crazy attack. He asks if he should continue, and the boy says yes. Hurry up and delete them all. In an attempt to end everything, the weapon launches a powerful attack, but Chang Tian appears in the nick of time and saves King Chu by pushing her out of the way of the attack. White quickly puts a protective barrier over his master and King Chu, and in doing so the holy level weapon recognizes him. Meanwhile, the boy happily encourages his weapon by dancing and chanting code 187 everybody, when suddenly a soft voice whispers to him, "Your power is much more than that." And the boy begins to freak out and maybe get a migraine, or at least it seems like it, making his weapon withdraw to take him away to safety. Moi calls him my child, but the weapon says he hasn't been their child for ages. Chang Tian asks Miss Chu why the boy hates her, and the scene cuts to them at home, where Mo Yi explains that he wasn't always like that. She tells a giant complicated story, and thanks to the very confusing subtitles, I didn't understand her story at all. So it's no use trying to explain it to y'all. What matters is that there was a lot of bullpoot betrayal, angry evil kings, war, blood, many swords being made, old men, decapitation, revenge, sacrifice, and those kinds of things. It's kinda difficult to understand as I don't speak Chinese. Anyway, Chang Tian seems to understand, and so after hearing the explanation, he says that he thinks that during the process of reincarnation, the soul of the evil king from the story was mixed with the old man and their sons inside the boy's body, so his spirit is unstable, as if he has more than one personality inside his body. I guess that's it. Okay, it's just a classic case of multiple personality disorder. Mo Yi asks if he had any idea how to solve this, but Chang Tian says no, and King Chu says that while they try to figure it out, they should avoid fighting the Taigsu armor because it was too powerful, despite White saying he would beat it with one hand if he had his true power. The episode ends with Chang Tian waking up to answer a call from his father, asking how long he was going to hang around there. Being lazy, doing nothing, you know, the regular fatherly affection of a dad who's too busy to care. The next scene introduces King Chu lounging on a sofa with a peculiar dude whose eyes are playing hide and seek. He was eager to include Chang Tian in their little gathering, but Chu shut down the idea, citing Chang Tian's absence from her home. The mysterious masked man regretfully noted that Chang Tian could have been a gold mine of info about Liu Xiaoqi, the son of Mo Yi and Gan Jiang. You know, that weird child who looks like Chucky who they fought earlier. Meanwhile, Fang Tian and White were in what seemed like Chang Tian's room. On the other side of the drama, Chang Tian was facing off with his old man. Dad was on a detective mission, wondering why Chang Tian hadn't been home or dialed in. Chang Tian played the responsible card, explaining he'd already filled his mom in and wasn't goofing off. However, his dad had conspiracy theories brewing. He suspected Chang Tian of wooing a wealthy Chu girl and doing some Sherlock-level research on her background. Dad dropped the bomb, commanding Chang Tian to steer clear of King Chu. This set Chang Tian off so much that he unleashed his frustration by punching a poor post outside, despite the inevitable pain. This takes us to the next part, which is also the earlier scene. The masked man goes by Mr. Yi and he spills the beans that Liu Xiaoqi often does shady stuff. The guy controlling him is Zhan Lu, the big shot in Tianzin Hall, also known as the Righteous Sword according to Chu. Mr. Yi explains that Zhan Lu summoned him through a dark ceremony, a spooky ritual where they sacrifice a person to call forth a weapon with no mercy, ready to wipe out everyone. He says he was invited to Tianzin Hall to witness how Zhan Lu tricked Mo Yi and Gan Jiang's son, the Chucky child. All I can understand is that this stuff is really confusing. But Mr. Yi tells Chu that to see Zhan Lu's full skills, apparently there's a catch. And just when things are about to get intense, Chu gets a message from Liu Xiaoqi with a picture of him smiling while 3 people behind him are tied together surrounded by fire. Mo Yi can't handle her child's actions, so she rushes to find him, closely followed by her husband. Mr. Yi advises Chu to go after her sacred weapons, and what does she do? Well, she calls Chang Tian for help, urging him to hurry back without filling him in on the exact details. While they search for the pyromaniac psycho child, Mo Yi, Gan Jiang, and King Chu find themselves trapped in a ward. Just as she's about to call Chang Tian, her phone gets struck by a spear. Uh-oh, they've been ambushed. Then she spots Liu Xiaoqi with his holy weapon and another person, whose identity she's unsure of. The unknown person, a blind-looking girl, claims to be there on her chairman's order, which turns out to be Zhan Lu's, with the directive to bring Chu to the Tianzin Hall. Chu deliberately refuses, leading to a confrontation with the girl, who insists on fighting Chu alone. The crazy kid also reveals that he's not with Tianzin Hall but says that the closed-eye girl can do whatever she wants, and he's just there to watch the show. Mo Yu tries to talk after her child, but he tells her to zip it or lose her life. Issues. Her husband suggests focusing on the battle. Funny thing, I thought the closed-eye girl was blind, but turns out she's not. Chu gets spooked because this girl is on the same power level as the Taixu armor. Chu's holy weapon kicks into high gear. Meanwhile, White and Chang Tian are on a mission to find Chu. White tells Chang Tian about this cool trick called Harmony Installation, where the master and the holy weapon become one. That's probably what happened to this powerhouse closed-eye girl. No wonder she's so strong. After a bit of back and forth in their clash, Gan Jiang takes a hit to the shoulder, and the girl manages to overpower Chu's holy weapon. The girl then invites Chu to join her without any restrictions to prevent more damage to her weapons, but Mo Yi and Gan Jiang strongly disagree. Both Mo Yi and Gan Jiang continue the fight with the girl, giving it their all. Meanwhile, Chu suddenly has a moment of self-reflection and, for some reason, starts throwing insults at herself. It's a bit cringy, but she manages to stop the girl from destroying her weapons and pleads to end the battle. Out of nowhere, a light starts shining in the background and Mo Yi and Gan Jiang express their love for Chu, declaring her as their own as if she's their real child, even though their original child is watching them say this. No wonder he hates them. Anyway, out of the blue, the 3 of them get naked. Miss Chu and her 2 weapons, petals start falling on them out of nowhere and things get all lovey and romantic in a dramatic kind of way. The episode wraps up with Chu transforming herself into a harmony installation with her weapons. Now that she's transformed, Chu becomes incredibly powerful, scaring the heck out of her enemy. Her final words are "get ready to pay." Meanwhile, intruders infiltrate King Chu's house following the chairman's orders. all while Chu is on the brink of battling the closed-eye girl elsewhere. Suddenly, Fang Tian shows up above the intruders. Turns out White and Chang Tian foresaw this, suspecting enemies might invade Chu's home, so they came up with a plan when White sensed the approaching threat. During the fight, the guy can't seem to focus on anything other than Fang Tian's WeChat number, like seriously. He is obsessed. It becomes his battle mantra. The rest of the infiltrators assume the defense has weakened and they dash towards the entrance, only to be met by White standing guard. White's team swiftly wipes out the intruders. Talk about a well-executed plan. As the baddies lay hurting on the ground, one is arrogant enough to insult White, and he deletes them all instantly. Off Whitey. Chang Tian is upset that White went in for the kill. He thinks they could have just scared them off. White advises him not to get too soft-hearted, explaining that in the world of Tian gang trial, you have to be willing to go all the way, even if it means taking lives. Meanwhile, back to our fighting femmes, Chu and the girl are still going at it, and boy, Chu is kicking butts and taking names. Chu thinks to herself that she has used too much power and needs to end the battle quickly. She unleashes a massive ball of fire, bringing their clash to an end. The tables have turned, and after a few verbal back and forths, she said encourages the girl with eye issues to surrender. The girl makes a run for it, and Psycho Kid joins her, claiming the battle was boring and he'd rather be watching Netflix. He mentions they achieved what they came for and that his parents will be eliminated soon enough. His eyes gleam as he steps through his portal. Goodness gracious, that kid gives me the heebie-jeebies. Chu is relieved they've left and grateful for her newfound power. The scene shifts to Chu's castle where Fang Tian and another Tian-level person are in a showdown. What's really amusing is that the guy seems more worried about looking handsome than the actual battle. His battle cry has changed from WeChat, WeChat, WeChat to be handsome, be handsome, be handsome. Suddenly, a girl attacks Fang Tian from behind, but it doesn't land as White shields her. White and the guy engage in a fierce fight, while Chang Tian takes a different path with Fang Xin. In the midst of their strategic moves, Chang Tian believes their plan is foolproof. However, the enemy unveils a surprise, rendering their efforts useless. Suddenly, a slashing sound pierces the air, and as the scene unfolds, we witness a brief flashback of Fang Xin losing her master. It's a sad scene. Reality hits, and it becomes apparent that the person who got slashed is none other than Fang Xin herself, bravely shielding her master, Chang Tian. The story takes us back to what appears to be a battlefield from Fang Xin's past with her master. In a fierce exchange, Fang Xin manages to retaliate against the girl who stabbed her. Fang Xin falls, but Chang Tian catches her with her last words. She asks him for words of affection, and slowly she breaths her last breath. Yep, Fang Tian's time in this series seems short-lived. As we return to the ongoing battle, it's now the silver-haired guy, aka Mr. Be Handsome, and White's turn to get serious. The silver-haired guy proves to be undeniably strong as the battle rages on. Amidst the intense fight, Chang Tian finds himself in tears on the other side, burdened with guilt over Fang Xin's loss. White asks him to pull it together and stop blubbering like a baby, but Chang Tian is lost in his grief. It seems like Chang Tian's team is on the brink of defeat when out of nowhere, 2 stars burst in the sky, and 2 swords flash through the air. To everyone's surprise, those swords are none other than Mo Yi and Ganjiang, followed by Miss Chu herself. Chu checks on Fang Xin and reveals that she's still alive, but here's the twist. Chu has turned Fang Xin into a tiny weapon, ensuring her survival. Chu expresses gratitude towards Chang Tian for saving her by informing the 3 other swords to assist her with their spirit power after her battle. She assures him that he's not a failure. It's time to put on his big boy pants and return the favor by ending their battle with the rest of those pesky Tians and Hall stalkers. Talk about a dramatic turn of events and a powerful comeback. Mo Yi and Ganjiang move real fast, grabbing that silver-haired guy. Now, he's puzzled, wondering how come White, just a D-level sword, is holding his ground against a big shot like him, a Tian level. But Tian bro is stubborn. This dude won't give up. He pulls out all the stops, saying he's got this ultimate move that's gonna be the showstopper. All of a sudden, the silver-haired dude turns into a powerhouse, and it makes Chang Tian feel kinda uneasy. He's got this gut feeling that trouble's brewing. Chang Tian suggests Chu should call off her weapon to avoid a mess. Out of nowhere, the silver-haired guy starts muttering and mumbling, and suddenly bam! The stars align, and there's this seriously strong light, wind, or lightning swirling around him. He calls it creation slash, saying he's untouchable now. It kind of reminds me of Goku's Kamehameha attack. Crazy powerful with loads of blue light. Sounds like dude is shouting Excalibur be my strength. Ha, but surprise, White stands there looking cooler than ever, just casually stopping the star power with his bare hands. The silver-haired guy thought he had this unbeatable move, but White's like, not today, Satan. Chang Tian can't just twiddle his thumbs, so he puts on his thinking cap and takes charge. He slashes his hand with Fang Tian, who's now turned into a tiny weapon thing. She reminds me of the world's fanciest toothpick, and he pushes his hand against White, using blood magic to support White's spirit power. White's not exactly thrilled about it, knowing it might put Chang Tian in harm's way, but he has no other choice. Together, they stand their ground against the star's power. It's a risky move, but Chang Tian's quick thinking, the power of the blood, and White's confidence make this showdown against the supposedly unbeatable foe a real nail-biter. They manage to absorb the star's power through a yin and yang fusion move orchestrated by White, leaving everyone astonished at how White could pull off such a feat. In the midst of it all, Chang Tian passes out and White claims he sacrificed himself for this move. White, ever ready with an insult, calls him a big fool. As a reward for their efforts, White reveals his last move, which turns out to be kind of cringe-worthy. It leaves everyone wondering what in the world is happening in this anime. White unleashes a powerful light and finally conquers his enemy. The defeated foe crumples, and then OT and Bro transforms the silver-haired guy into a tiny weapon and takes off with his accomplice. Shu rushes to Chang Tian, looking more worried than ever. Meanwhile, Nolan Bro is fleeing but suspicious. He complains, telling OT and Bro that something is off. Out of nowhere, White appears in the background, and just as dude was about to tell us what's really good, he swiftly stabs him in the back. Initially, I thought this anime was cringy, but it turns out that it's filled with crazy twists and turns. The episode closes with the guy fearing for his life while staring at what appears to be White. The scene then cuts to lightning striking, revealing two men standing outside a shrine. Probably for Nolan Bro, rest in peace. One of the guys is holding a purple sword, dressed in a purple outfit with purple hair. Very rock and roll. This guy turns out to be the chairman everyone has been talking about. So this is the chief. Before OT and Bro can explain, Mr. Yi makes an entrance and drops a piece of news on the chairman. It seems Mr. Yi is hinting at the recent clash involving Chu and Chang Tian, and it's pretty evident that the chairman's messengers didn't fare too well in that showdown. Well, that sends the chairman into a fit of rage, swearing vengeance against those responsible. Now, Mr. Yi dives a bit deeper into the situation, unveiling that if they managed to take down the Chus, it would bring some sort of closure to the late Mr. Nolan. The chairman storms off, grumbling about how he's going to educate these troublemakers on the consequences of crossing paths with Tianzin Hall. This declaration from the chairman brings a wicked grin to Mr. Yi's face. If this masked man isn't suspicious, then I don't know what is. Now, it's a bit unclear whether Mr. Yi is playing for the chairman's team or Chang Tian's side. The only thing that's certain is that there's some complex alliance or scheme at play. Tensions are rising and mysteries are piling up, making me wonder where these alliances will lead and what consequences lie ahead in this intriguing storyline. Now, the scene shifts to Chu's mansion and Chang Tian looks like he's in some kind of hospital room. He's just chilling in bed, reading a book, with Fangshan now turned into a weapon standing nearby. Out of the blue, Chu storms in with a barrage of questions about how he's holding up and just what was he thinking using blood as spirit power. She goes on to say what Chang Tian pulled off during the battle was crazy risky, but Chang Tian, being his nonchalant self, didn't really dwell on it much. There's a hint of embarrassment on his face for his daring moves, and just when things are getting interesting, in walks this tanned, sultry-looking girl with vibrant purple hair, on the hunt for Miss Chu. What a beauty! The girl playfully teases Chu by asking why she looks so happy, which makes Chu all flustered, and she blurts out that it's not what the girl thinks. Chang Tian is feeling the same embarrassment and urges the girl not to get the wrong idea. Then Chang Tian quizzes the girl on how things are going and the girl cheerfully responds with a big yes. Things are almost ready. Now Chu's left scratching her head, trying to figure out what on earth they're chatting about. She turns to Chang Tian, bombarding him with questions about what he's up to and what they're referring to. Chang Tian answers respectfully. He explains that Chu's mansion is strategically positioned, sort of like sitting on a spirit ley line. So in his grand plan, he's using this setup to boost up their defense. Chu is totally wowed by Chang Tian's idea and gives him some well-deserved praise. She's very impressed as he's made significant progress despite being new to this magical lifestyle. But humble Chang Tian brushes it off, saying he's just doing his part to chip in for the rent for his stay at Chu's house. Out of the blue, another weapon pops up rocking some stylish blue hair and blurts out that they're coming. Chu's naturally curious, asking who they are. Blue-haired dude spills it. It's none other than Jan Lu himself, on his way to pay them a visit. The guy goes on to explain that Jan Lu is with Han O Tian and Lim Ruming, and they're chilling on the hill behind Chu's house. Chu and Chang Tian are taken aback by this unexpected visit and even more so by Jan Lu's personal appearance. It prompted Chang Tian to get out of bed, urging everyone to calm down and assess the situation first. He wonders aloud why someone as significant as Jan Lu would bother with them. Chu is trying to make sense of it, insisting there must be a misunderstanding. However, Chang Tian doesn't think it's a simple mix-up. Then out of the woods, Jan Lu and two others emerge. Chu sensed hostility and described them as downright murderous. Jan Lu breaks the silence, directing his attention to Chang Tian and instructing him to summon White, expressing a desire to speak with him. Despite being somewhat bewildered, Chang Tian complies and recites something that brings White into the scene. In a swift move, Jan Lu points his sword at White, proclaiming himself as one of the world's top swords, the Sword of Righteousness, Jan Lu. As it turns out, Jan Lu's visit wasn't about some grand mission or threat. He just wanted to size up White and check out how strong he is. Can you believe it? He basically dropped by to mess with their heads and satisfy his curiosity about White's strength. White can't help but chuckle because Jan Lu is quite the character. He reminds me of He-Man, Master of the Universe, crossed with a 1980s Bon Jovi music video. But hey, he does have the right to be a bit full of himself. After all, he's the chairman. Still, Jan Lu insists that before he goes all wrecking ball on their place, he wants a one-on-one showdown with White. Being his usual overconfident self, White asks Jan Lu if he's really sure about that. Meanwhile, Mr. Yi is lurking somewhere watching the whole scene unfold with a creepy grin on his face. Honestly, I'm getting some really creepy vibes from him. Mr. Masked Voyeur has some serious issues, and with a flash of blue and purple, the showdown kicks off, setting the stage for what promises to be an intense ordeal. White initiates the showdown with a powerful arrow, but Jan Lu effortlessly deflects it with just one hit. Sneakily, he reappears behind White, but our sharp protagonist quickly catches on and counters the attacks. White acknowledges Jan Lu's impressive aura, triggering a quick flashback to when Mr. Yi explained Jan Lu's extraordinary skill. According to Mr. Yi, Jan Lu possesses a unique ability called Ksana Pith, which allows him to move freely in both space and time. When attacked, he can swiftly shift through space to dodge or defend against the assault. Additionally, if he happens to get injured, he can manipulate time, reverting to a moment before the injury occurred, effectively nullifying the damage. Sounds like some kind of Superman turning back time. White takes a moment to catch his breath, preparing to counter Jan Lu's next attack. Chu chimes in, mentioning that while Jan Lu's skills are formidable, they can be overcome if one can accurately predict his next move. According to her, the key is to think strategically. Simply put, if you're not quick on the uptake, you might just fade into the nothingness. Surprisingly, Jan Lu is taken aback by White's ability to withstand his attacks, especially considering it's White's first encounter with this skill. It seems that typically facing Jan Lu's attacks for the first time might result in instant defeat, but White proves to be an exception to the rule. White manages to fend off Jan Lu's attacks, but things take a tense turn as Jan Lu's sword pierces through White's defense, piercing his shoulder. This leaves Chang Tian understandably anxious for his holy weapon's safety. To everyone's surprise, White withstands the attack, laughs, and even dares to call Jan Lu weak. Meanwhile, Jan Lu is struggling to comprehend why White is doing an Elton John impression and is still standing. despite being on the brink of defeat. The plot thickens as the scene shifts to the tan, sexy girl from earlier, who appears to be gathering what looks like logs with two other weapons on the other side of the mansion. They are arranging them in a distinct pattern. "What are y'all up to, friends?" The battle between Jianlu and White rages on, but then White throws a curveball by asking Chang Tian, or Rubbish as he so lovingly calls him, if everything is set up to go. Suddenly, the logs gathered earlier light up and shoot blue energy into the sky. Shu is thoroughly impressed by the magical move and can't help but ask Chang Tian when he learned such a technique. Chang Tian casually reveals that he just picked up the technique earlier that afternoon, not fully aware of its effects. Chang Tian begins muttering some words, and to be honest, the only thing I can make out is that Chang Tian just gave White some kind of power boost thanks to the magical boundary put in place. This boost makes White quite confident, and he even throws down a challenge, daring Jianlu to unleash his full power. Now, White effortlessly counters Jianlu's power without breaking a sweat. This is the moment when Mr. Yi makes his surprise sucka entrance, declaring that Jianlu has become weak. He confronts Chang Tian, bluntly telling him to go to hell, but his words are swiftly dismissed by a massive burst of light emanating from Chang Tian. Suddenly, Chang Tian transforms, donning an impressive armor complete with a cool headdress and a spear. Bro looking fly AF, the shock on Mr. Yi's face is evident as he witnesses Chang Tian having mastered harmony installation, signifying that White and Chang Tian have become one formidable force. He questions just how this is possible. Chang Tian lays it all out, explaining that anything is possible in this world. He's not blind to Mr. Yi's two-faced nature, and even though he pretended to be helping Chu, Chang Tian saw right through him. Our hero first sensed something fishy when Mr. Yi last instructed Chu to give him 10 minutes to get to their location, but how on earth would he know that Chang Tian needed that amount of time to reach them? Chang Tian, with his keen observation skills, quickly realized that Mr. Yi was always keeping tabs on him, leading him to the conclusion that Mr. Yi was no ally. Shockingly, it turns out that Mr. Yi also betrayed Chairman Jianlu. His underlings claimed they received orders to obliterate Chu's house from Jianlu, but it was all a lie. The plot thickens when O.T. Bro reveals that White eliminated his brother, Nolan. Remember that scene earlier when White killed his companion in the woods? Yep, that was Nolan. However, Jianlu drops a bombshell. Mr. Yi is exceptionally skilled at face shifting. So it turns out Jianlu and White were framed. They've all been duped by Mr. Yi, who makes a quick exit by summoning a portal and somehow summoning that mentally ill kid from earlier too. Quick reminder, he's Mo Yi and Ganjiang's child. Our masked murderer tag teams the kid in to destroy them, and Baby Boy gleefully accepts the challenge. Amidst all the chaos, Chairman Jianlu hands a crystal to White, admitting that he wrongly accused him. The gem, or debris as he called it, rightfully belongs to White. The debris is placed on White, and the scene shifts to a magical place filled with light and petals and an enormous yin-yang symbol. From there, White is teleported to a battlefield where a man commands someone who appears to be White, urging him to save the people. Now back to reality. The kid's weapon openly mocks White for being a D-level, and White confidently responds that he'll show them what it feels like to lose to a D-level weapon. With a swift transformation of his armor, he cheekily calls them a brat. Chang Tian and Mo Yi try to make sense of the kid's situation, explaining that Mr. Yi is merely using them and that they need to wake up. Mo Yi and Ganjiang launch the first attack, but the kid's weapon effortlessly dismisses it, revealing that the Tianzin Hall betrayed them first, sporting a smirk on his face. The weapon wielded by the kid boldly attacks Jianlu, throwing accusations of being dirty dogs. Chang Tian's team then shows off their clever tactics, launching a direct assault on the kid's weapon. But much to their surprise, the weapon easily brushes off their combined powers, stating that it has no effect on him. In the midst of it all, Shu made the bold decision to team up and engage in harmony installation with her holy weapons. With both Chang Tian and Chu synchronized in harmony installation, they launch a swift and coordinated attack on the weapon named Taizu. Despite their best efforts, Taizu proves to be formidable and shrugs off their assault. Taizu gets all pumped up by their attempts, arrogantly taunting them. Chang Tian and Chu give it their all to finally land a hit on Taizu, causing a small injury to their head. This gets Taizu really worked up. claiming it's been 5,000 years since it last saw its own blood. It seems like he hasn't faced such a challenge in a very, very long time. The battle takes an interesting turn as Taizu's resilience becomes more apparent, making the situation even more complicated. Taizu finally unleashes their full power, revealing a strange purple ball. Suddenly, they all find themselves in a different dimension, a domain created by Taizu that it confidently dubs the Taizu Zone. Domain expansion activate. Shu has had enough of the craziness and decides to take matters into her own hands. With a determined leap, she goes in for a stab, only to be shocked when it effortlessly absorbs her attack. Shu isn't one to back down, so she tries repeatedly, but her efforts prove futile. This thing is like the freaking Terminator. Taizu, with casual ease, avoids all explosive attacks aimed at them. Panic sets in, and the team quickly huddle together to come up with a plan. They decide to focus on the kid, thinking that if they can reconcile with him, that Taizu might lose its edge. Moyi bravely volunteers for this dangerous mission, while White and Chang Tian distract Taizu with their own attacks. Amid the chaotic battle against Taizu, Moyi attempts to reach out to her child for reconciliation. However, the kid firmly rejects any comfort, insisting that it's too late for that now. Taizu catches wind of their plan and decides to unleash fiery attacks, threatening to turn them into ashes. Worried for her child, Moyi urgently explains that his body won't be able to withstand the continued onslaught. But instead of receiving a rational response, the unexpected happens. That crazy kid casually starts choking his own mother. This shocking turn of events leaves everyone bewildered. It's then that they realize the kid's body harbors not one, not two, but 3 souls. Even more surprising, 2 of those souls are adults, all coexisting within the same body. A Trinity fusion, it's called. Special note: Trinity fusions can steal weapons directly from others. While everyone was caught up in the intense child-choking parent madness, Taizu let out a fierce attack that looked like an electric power shower, shattering the Harmony installation, knocking everybody and their mama unconscious to the ground. Taking advantage of the chaos, the kid then used the same lightning power on his own mother, causing Mo Yi to fall to the ground knocked out cold. Psycho Child shocks all those laying on ground again just for extra ships and giggles. Kid certainly certifiable. Even Taizu's getting sick of his crap and tells him to stop. In a surprising turn of events, the child shifts his vicious attention to Taizu, attempting to force a Harmony installation with them. He boldly claimed that with this power, they could easily rule the world. He violates and quickly absorbs a stupefied Taizu. His actions shatter the zone, and the kid is left floating, dressed in a seriously suave outfit. I gotta admit, that outfit was styled to the max. Looking sharp, yet a little psycho. The child unleashes a powerful storm of lightning that looks incredibly formidable. In the midst of this intense display of power, Chang Tian has a light bulb moment. He turns to Zhan Lu and asks for an assist, distract the kid while he prepares an arrangement for that little brat. Zhan Lu's underlings attempted to attack the child, but he casually dismisses their efforts, claiming that even 3 TM-level forces combined can't harm him. However, a hint of surprise flickers across his face when he notices Chang Tian with White. They join hands, radiating a brilliant light within themselves, and then initiate a Harmony installation. The child arrogantly tries to unleash his power against Chang Tian and White, thinking he's got the upper hand. However, to his surprise, Chang Tian and White not only absorb his attack but also cleverly counter it, delivering a powerful stream of energy that catches him off guard. Just when he's gearing up to attack Chang Tian again, his own doppelgangers intervene, forcing him to stop. Chang Tian impressively outsmarts and overcomes the boy, marking a crucial turning point. The young one, in a moment of clarity, finally acknowledges his parents. This revelation triggers a trip down memory lane, revealing that the child was once an innocent baby, traumatized, victimized, manipulated, and trapped by Mr. Yi and imprisoned by Taizu. Fortunately, he's been freed from that dangerous hellscape. Our crazy child goes through an energetic transformation, confronts his past, his pain, and all that affected him, turning a new leaf, and welcomes his parents with open arms, ready to forge a new path in this reincarnation cycle. Brings tears to my eyes, I tell ya. As the episode wraps up, it leaves us on the edge of our seats with a scene where Chang Tian's mom appears seemingly lifeless. A hooded man stands over her body as we watch her phone light up with an incoming call, and it doesn't take long before the scene shifts to a hospital where Chang Tian's mother lies hospitalized. Following their epic battle, someone reached out to Chu informing her that Chang Tian's mom had collapsed. Her last words were urging Chang Tian to save his dad before she lost consciousness. Chu and Fengshen expressed their concern, trying to comfort Chang Tian during this difficult time. Meanwhile, White keeps it strictly professional, saying they should find Mr. Yi right away without worrying too much about Chang Tian's mom, saying emotions disturb rational thought. Okay, chill, Mr. Robot. No need to always be an alpha Chad. Chang Tian responds with the only emotion that men don't have a problem with, anger, well actually blind rage. Bro is fuming. Chang Tian argues his own thoughts about weapons and their feelings, responding to White's earlier idea that success might mean sacrificing thousands. He argued that at first he thought that weapons don't feel things as strongly as humans do, but he has come to know that only White is an uncaring, emotionless puppet who only imitates what he could never understand. That he has never lost a loved one, basically, an escalated, overly emotional version of the you-know-nothing Jon Snow speech. Shout out Game of Thrones. This hit a nerve with White, who looks deeply affected, causing him to take a step back. Fueled by anger, the accepted emotion, White stormed out of the hospital, leaving the others in his dust. In the next scene, Jianlu and Chu sip on some hot drinks, expressing worry about Chang Tian and wondering just how long it will be before Mr. Yi is captured. Meanwhile, Fengshen has a chat with another weapon who seems to be watching over her. They dive into a conversation about the bond between masters and weapons, highlighting how trust and belief in each other are of the utmost importance. Their chat gets intense as Fengshen is dead set on getting stronger with her master Chang Tian and companion Sword White. On the other side of the mansion, Chang Tian seems lost in his own thoughts under the moonlight, and that's when Chu appears. They dive into a combo about moms and Chu spills the tea on hers. Daughter to a rich family, her mom didn't know any basic life skills like cooking, but after Chu was born, she became a kitchen whiz. When her mom passed away, Chu was young, and the grief took its toll. So she can kinda relate to Chang Tian's situation, even though his mom hasn't kicked the bucket just yet. She believes he'll bounce back soon. Then Chu throws a truth bomb at Chang Tian, blowing his mind by saying that Chang Tian she knows would never hate his weapons. Over in a different corner of this massive home, White's just chilling, sipping coffee, having flashbacks, and getting all nostalgic about his old master. And surprise, surprise, Jianlu pops in out of nowhere, and they dive into a deep, heartfelt conversation. I mean, seriously, what's the deal with this anime? One minute, we're in the middle of intense blood-drenched battles, and now it's all about intense heart-to-heart talks. So I'm just gonna skip most of the cringy details of their talk. Too awkward to dive into, but here's the main points. Jianlu, in his own quirky way, apparently likens our hero Chang Tian to his master, who for some strange reason is a cat. According to Jianlu, this cat gets all annoyed and icy except when it needs help or is hungry. Then it gets all cuddly and cute, but it never bails on him when the battlefield action kicks in. I'm sitting there like, seriously. What is the connection to Chang Tian needing some emotional support? I guess it will be a lost in translation moment with these wonky subtitles. Anyway, let's cut to the chase. Their heart-to-heart chat strikes a chord with our main character, and now he's on a mission to patch things up with Chang Tian. Fast forward to where he finds Chang Tian, and what does he see? Chu and Chang Tian having a chat that triggers some serious deja vu. He's picturing his past master falling head over heels for a girl, and it's giving him all the feels. Before things get too mushy though, Chu backs off, giving the guys room to talk. Chang Tian steps up, owning his mistakes and apologizing for losing his cool and speaking so recklessly. Now that he has had some time to process his mother's hospitalization, he's revved up and ready to go, aiming to catch Mr. Yi and make him pay for all that he has inflicted upon them. And just like that, they've patched things up. White can't help but see shades of Chang Tian in his past masters, making his head spin. We enjoy a montage of all the good things they've experienced together so far, and the bromance soars to new heights as the episode comes to a close. In the next scene, we finally get the lowdown on White's previous master, East Emperor Tai. He's like the ultimate god in legends, leading the spirit group with a long list of names to his credit, a sure sign of a seriously strong master. According to White, their bond as master and weapon went beyond just that. It was a powerful friendship. When the 10 beasts went on a rampage, turning the land into a living nightmare, Tai and White fought side by side to protect the spirit group. Despite their efforts, the beasts managed to break into the city, and Tai battled the beasts using all his might, driving them into the depths of hell and restoring peace. However, this hard-won peace came at a hefty price. Tai sacrificed his life, leaving White shattered into pieces, and the once held debris now scattered. If you were curious about that gem Jan Lu handed him earlier, it turns out it's one of the fragments of White's original power. This gem holds the key to bringing back his memories, and maybe unlocking the rest of his powers too. Intriguing. On the other hand, Chang Tian and the gang gather in a swanky condo to cook up a plan on how to nab Mr. Yi. They're playing it secretive, not spilling the tea on their strategy, but the moment they join hands, poof, they magically teleport to who knows where. They find themselves venturing into a dark cave, and while walking, Chu accidentally activates a booby trap, and seemingly out of nowhere a spear ambushes them. Quick on his feet, Jan Lu skillfully counters the surprise attack. But here's the kicker. That sneaky spear transforms into a holographic Mr. Yi, revealing a chilling scene of Chang Tian's hog-tied father. The ominous Mr. Yi proposes a deal. If Chang Tian wants to save his old man, he's gotta meet. But it's a solo mission, just him and White. Without a moment's hesitation, Chang Tian dives headfirst into the portal that the holographic Mr. Yi left behind. Talk about trust. He's banking on this being the path that transports him to Mr. Yi's lair, where the odds might just be in his favor. Shu offers some advice, telling Chang Tian to take care, but he's brimming with confidence, thinking everything will be just fine with White by his side. As both White and Chang Tian step into the portal, they find themselves in different locations. White is greeted by that colossal door from the first episode, but Chang Tian is nowhere in sight. Oddly enough, White senses the presence of Tai's breath, his previous master. Wait, why is he feeling his breath? Awkward. Cut to the next scene, and we're introduced to a massive yin and yang symbol surrounded by lava. This is where Chang Tian landed. Initially baffled because White is missing, Chang Tian soon spots Mr. Yi, looking all sinister and villainous, sitting across from him on a giant stone throne. According to Mr. Yi, White has been separated from Chang Tian and won't be joining their party anytime soon. Mr. Yi rises from his seat, and suddenly it hits me. This scene is straight out of the very beginning, where a man lays down the law, saying that every 1,000 years a catastrophic event looms, and even folks with weapons won't cut it against the impending doom. Now, Mr. Yi lays out the deal for Chang Tian. He claims that participating in the Tian gang trial would be utterly pointless for him. Instead, he offers to help Chang Tian find a different and supposedly right path. But there's a catch. Chang Tian has to hand over White to him under a specific condition. But Chang Tian doesn't bat an eye at Mr. Yi's tricky words because he's got a clear picture of what he needs to do. Out of the blue, White swoops in from above, launching a clever attack on Mr. Yi that shatters his eye mask. Then shock hits us all when Chang Tian and White discover that this man is the spitting image of White. Chang Tian even questions if he's another fragment of White, but Mr. Yi sets the record straight, claiming that White and him are one. It's a total mind-bender, and things are getting seriously confusing right now. Turns out both him and White were components of an ancient holy weapon named Hongming Heaven's Bell, and they are equals in power. Mr. Yi floats an idea that White should merge with him, allowing them to wield the full power of the original holy weapon. This would give them the freedom to do whatever they want, with no masters calling the shots. But White quickly shoots down this proposal, holding firm to the belief that he is the holy weapon of Tai, and his mission is solely to exterminate creatures like Mr. Yi. Mr. Yi brushes off White's stance, opting to showcase a scene from the past to make his case. A little memory refresher if you'd like. This takes us down memory lane to the past, courtesy of the East Emperor. White is shown in the scene, bound and tied, recounting an unexpected turn of events. He found himself accused of a laundry list of wrongs, from unjustly taking innocent lives to harboring inappropriate feelings for the Empress and plotting the murder of the Emperor. You know, the classic set of accusations from back in the day. Indefensible accusations designed to destroy your reputation and your life. In an unexpected twist, The Emperor delivering these accusations turns out to be none other than White's beloved master, Tai. Shockingly, Tai orders a terrible, torturous punishment for White. However, being a holy weapon, the punishment proves futile, prompting Tai to seal White's powers and cast him into the great unknown. Now, if that reminiscing session doesn't scream suspicious, I don't know what does. And now we're back in the thick of it. Mr. Yi is still desperately trying to convince White that his once proud master is nothing more than a dastardly, weak, jealous man who threw them to the wolves. But White stands firm, undeterred by these claims. Seriously, this roller coaster of revelations has been one wild ride. My heart is racing as to what we'll uncover next. In a sneaky move, Mr. Yi manages to ensnare White in a ball crackling with electricity. Chang Tian rushes to White's side, full of concern, but Mr. Yi quickly shuts him down, warning that he should worry about himself. Sounds ominous. Then Mr. Yi traps Chang Tian inside the electric ball too. Simply put, shocking. Meanwhile, on the other side of the lair, Chu and the gang run into a horde of ambushing enemies. They bravely take on the challenge and emerge victorious, since those enemies were more like D-level warriors. As the episode nears its end, Chang Tian and White, despite being in pretty bad shape, stand their ground. They conjure up this cool, glowing energy ball, their eyes shining with strong determination. It's like they're saying they might be down, but they are not out. Unfortunately, here comes Mr. Yi, crashing the party, saying he knows exactly what they're up to. Sadly, everything falls apart for Chang Tian and White. Chang Tian, confused and desperate, asks Mr. Yi what he did to them. Mr. Yi, playing innocent, says he didn't do anything. Instead, he spills the beans about this harmony installation thing, how it needs a super strong connection between the master and the weapon. And breaking that bond is like trying to eat soup with a spoon, super easy, and White's apparently the more delicate one in this connection. Then White has this light bulb moment. Mr. Yi planted those memories to mess with their relationship. But before White can fully process this mind-blowing realization, Mr. Yi goes berserk, smashing White's head to the ground and giving his face a serious stomping. I'm guessing he watched a little too much American History X. Mr. Yi keeps pushing White to give up the fight and join him. Chang Tian steps in, telling Mr. Yi to back off, but Mr. Yi doesn't pay much attention. White remains resolute with Tai as his only master, the one he'll listen to. He even sees Tai's reflection in Chang Tian's eyes. In an attempt to further mess with White's mind, Mr. Yi throws another memory his way. This time, it's a tough memory of White getting bullied by villagers, getting jumped, and being excluded and ostracized. The scene shifts and White finds himself wandering through the woods. He witnesses Tai beginning his battle against the beasts. White dashes towards a castle yelling for Tai, only to find him already fatally stabbed. I know it's starting to get seriously confusing, but hang on, I'll try my best to explain. This is when White's origin body got shattered. He got absorbed into the Shangyuan arsenal, and Mr. Yi was left alone to wander the earth, his personality split, and his mind filled with betrayal, distrust, and abandonment traumas. Wow, even weapons need trauma therapy or they're left damaged in the worst ways. Dear viewer, make sure you find help for your own traumatic experiences. We don't need any more Mr. Yi's wandering our planet. This brings us back to the present chaos. Mr. Yi goes on a rant, claiming that masters are all just ruthless and untrustworthy, ditching their warriors once they're deemed useless. He attempts to convince White once again to merge with him, promising that together they can conquer the Tian gang trial and rule the world. Seriously, why is he so fixated on ruling the world? Isn't that exhausting? Abandonment and inferiority complex sure did a number on him. Mr. Yi is gearing up to neutralize White. Meanwhile, Chu and the gang are frantically searching for Chang Tian, worrying about what might be happening to him. However, Chu is confident that Chang Tian won't lose, or will he? White appears to be getting swallowed by the ground, but with unwavering determination. Despite his weakened state, Chang Tian grabs onto Mr. Yi's feet, attempting to stand up to him, but Mr. Yi just kicks him straight to the curb. Undeterred, Chang Tian grabs White and urges him to come to his senses, telling him not to listen to Mr. Yi. The scene shifts to White's inner thoughts as he feels himself slowly drowning in despair. He believes he's abandoned once again, sinking into darkness. However, a hand reaches out to him from above, and it's Chang Tian's hand. Chang Tian declares at the top of his lungs that he'll never abandon or forget White, and they clasp hands. Bromance reconciliation. White, who was convinced that Tai Yi only saw him as a tool, is countered by Chang Tian, who believes there must be a reason for Tai Yi's actions. Despite White admitting to having excommunicated many people, Chang Tian asserts that White doesn't harm good people. They engage in a heartfelt conversation with Chang Tian, trying to convince White that he's not just a weapon but also a friend to him, Chu, and many others. This deeply resonates with White, and suddenly we're back in reality. A bright light surrounds White and Chang Tian. Mr. Yi can't believe it, so he launches an attack to finish them off, but the attack rebounds, blowing him away. The tables have turned in this intense and surprising turn of events. The light swirls, and a figure appears in a white costume. It's Chang Tian, seemingly fused with White in this transformative scene. However, Mr. Yi remains convinced that White's mind needs more reprogramming, and he gears up for a fight. Mr. Yi releases a scythe-like weapon to attack Chang Tian, but Chang Tian casually brushes it off with his arm. Chang Tian becomes seemingly untouchable, effortlessly dodging and deterring Mr. Yi's attacks. He finally unleashes a powerful strike that deals a fatal blow to Mr. Yi. Now, here's the head-scratcher. If Chang Tian can overcome Mr. Yi so quickly, why did the battle drag on for so long? I mean, he punches and kicks Mr. Yi to the curb in an instant, but I'm not complaining because it's incredibly satisfying to see. After finally defeating Mr. Yi, White instructs Chang Tian to go save his dad. It turns out that Mr. Yi is still alive and questions White on why he doesn't deliver a final fatal blow. Despite them being separated now, White acknowledges that they were once one, expressing sympathy for all that Mr. Yi has been through. He notes that humans may not be entirely trustworthy, but White trusts and respects Tai Yi and Chang Tian above all. Mr. Yi finally fades into the light, issuing a warning that White will eventually regret his choice. Suddenly, Chang Tian returns with his father in tow. In a surprising turn of events, his dad unexpectedly chokes Chang Tian, gripping him tightly and lifting him off the ground. Not to hate on his daddy, but I've never liked the man. The way he treats Chang Tian has always been suspect. Out of nowhere, his dad conjures this enormous purple sword and he tosses Chang Tian aside. Just as his dad was about to whack him with the gigantic purple weapon, the screen goes completely black, leaving us wondering just who Papa sliced. The next scene shifts to a gorgeous view of a hot spring bath with Mo Yi and Miss Chu. It turns out that Miss Chu was already narrating what happened to Chang Tian. According to Chu, Chang Tian got really frightened during that intense moment. Chu doesn't spill all the details, she just hopes that Chang Tian can overcome whatever happened, and she's happy he has the support of his weapons. Suddenly, a maid bursts in with some heartbreaking news. Chang Tian, along with White and Fangshan, have vanished. On the other side of the mountain, Fangshan is seen effortlessly slicing bamboo, acknowledging she's still not strong enough. This leads us to what happened to Chang Tian during his dad's intense moment. It turns out, just as Chang Tian's dad was about to strike him, the whole gang, including Chu, swooped in to save the day. Fangshan was there too, and with a swing of Chang Tian's dad's sword, she was almost blown away. Chang Tian's dad, ever the hater, calls her a silly girl and questions why she protects him, and then suddenly the ground starts cracking. White cautions Chang Tian that the person before them isn't his dad anymore. Chang Tian's dad arrogantly warns them that he'll allow them to leave just this once and promptly enters a portal, ignoring Chang Tian's attempts to call him back. In another scene, Chang Tian rushes home, determined to uncover why his dad changed. Although it's not clear what he's looking for, he discovers a ring under the table, his dad's wedding ring. Chang Tian gives the ring to White, who then discloses that he can sense a powerful spirit energy emanating from it, a force so strong that it caused harm to Chang Tian's mother. This revelation makes Chang Tian consider the possibility that his dad might be responsible for hurting his mother. The scene unfolds, revealing that there were two individuals involved in harming his mother. One wore a mask, and the other was a blonde woman with short hair. Oh, daddy's got a side piece. Chang Tian begins to think that maybe, just maybe, his dad has teamed up with Mr. Yi, and this idea hits him right in the feels. It's like a heavy cloud of sadness hanging over him. In a fit of rage and frustration, he smashes a photo frame holding a picture of his parents, accidentally cutting his hand in the process. As he holds his injured hand, memories flash by, memories of his parents living together, happier times now clouded by doubt and confusion. Although to me it doesn't look as if his dad was happy in any of his memories. All of a sudden, the scene does a total 180, transporting us to a concert setting. The energy is buzzing, the crowd is lively, and then out of nowhere, the power decides to take a break. Darkness envelopes the stage, and in the midst of this blackout, Chang Tian's dad emerges on stage with a spotlight on him, casually puffing away on a cigarette. Talk about an unexpected twist in the storyline. The young singer attempts to approach Chang Tian's dad. His dad gives him some major evil eye, and suddenly the singer grips his chest, then collapses. Y'all know the saying, if looks could kill. Well, this is that. To the astonishment of the audience, similar waves of pain overcome them, leading to a chaotic scene. Amidst this confusion, a woman named Turfing makes an unexpected entrance, adorned in a striking outfit. Oh, daddy's side chick looks good AF. It's giving body goals and abs to die for. There's one question lingering in everyone's mind though. Why did they decide to meet up in the middle of a concert stage? The mysterious events unfolding in this anime have me eagerly anticipating the upcoming scenes. What you and your side piece up to, daddy? In the next sequence, we find Chang Tian and White sprinting urgently, engaged in a heated discussion. Chang Tian expresses concern about the formidable strength of his dad's weapon and worries that more trouble might ensue. Suddenly, Chu and the rest of the group join them in their hurried run. So it appears they're still searching for him, explaining why they seem so tense. Just as they're about to talk, a big bright light shows up in front of them with strong spirit power. Chang Tian says it probably saves them time looking for his father. Now, the scene changes to Zhan Lu and the side chick fighting, likely causing the earlier bright light. There are red fragments floating in the air, and Zhan Lu asks the homewrecker just what she did. He correctly guesses that she absorbed all the humans at the concert like they were her food. Miss Side Chick nonchalantly mentions that it's just nature taking its course, and that she's hungry for more, as she slowly licks her lips. Bloody hell, she's one sexy man-eater. In the ensuing fight, she effortlessly overpowers Zhan Lu, kicking him all over the concert grounds. Luckily, Zhan Lu's buddies rush in to save him from becoming her next snack. He tries to warn them that she's one crazy lady, but it's too late. The side piece proves to be too strong for them too. She's snapping arms like toothpicks, slashing her foes, and even using black lightning to zap them into submission. She laughingly suggests they become her next meal. She happily exclaims the need for more spirit power and asks Chang Tian's dad if she could devour all these people. Chang Tian's dad calls her his queen and states that everyone in the world should become her food, ensuring she remains forever young. He also states that the world should be welcoming its new queen, or as he put it, its new god. Daddy is a simp. The girl begins to choke Zhan Lu, lifting him off the ground with kinetic force alone. Just as she's about to feast on him, Chang Tian intervenes, begging his dad to stop. Dad seems unbothered. Then the rest of the crew arrives. She drops Zhan Lu and focuses herself on the new arrivals, calling them the main course. Chang Tian pleads with his father to tell him the whole truth, and since his dad is in the mood to brag, he spills the whole story. He claims that he's a spirit warrior and the vice president of Shang Yuan Arsenal. While he was happy at Chang Tian's birth, he quickly noticed that Chang Tian didn't have any spirit power. Realizing that he couldn't let Chang Tian take over his career, he chose not to tell his wife and Chang Tian the truth. As Chang Tian grew older, his dad realized that Chang Tian was the reincarnation of East Emperor Tai. He tried to prevent him from becoming a spirit warrior and being able to summon the full power of White, but Chang Tian followed his own path, ignoring his dad's demands. According to his dad, he should have the Heaven's Bell as his weapon, then he could easily defeat the beasts and rule the world. Cue evil laugh. Damn, I knew his daddy was a B-word and a hater, but this is next level insanity. Daddy is the ops. Changshan's father had a whole evil plan figured out to let Mr. Yi capture him and then use him to get White, which would eventually lead to Turfing, his side chick, absorbing the newly reconstructed Heaven's Bell, giving Daddy all the power. Unfortunately, Chang Tian messed it up by intervening and attempting to save his useless, evil hater of a father. Brah. Chang Tian asks, what about my mama? Daddy tells him to shut his dumb ass up. Back to Chu, she senses a lot of spirit power floating around and it dawns on her that those tiny glowing red fragments earlier were indeed spirit power. Disheartened to learn that the side piece was consuming people as if it was nothing, Shu transforms into Harmony Installation and attacks her stepmother-in-law. However, the side chick easily deflects the attack because Harmony Installation has no effects on her, as per Chang Tian's dad. He explains that she's a cursed sword, so the more the master trusts the weapon, the less damage the cursed sword would take. It seems like trust plays a crucial role in the dynamics of this unusual encounter. Now it's White's turn to attack the girl from all sides, but despite his powerful strikes, the girl remains untouched. Chang Tian's dad spills the beans that the girl has a special ability. She gets stronger when her opponent is male. Reverse sexism for the win. White receives a fatal blow and struggles to get up. Suddenly, the girl unleashes an incredibly strong power, expressing her boredom with fighting them. With Chang Tian's dad's consent, she decides to devour all of them. With the girl's enormous power, the team feels all hope slipping away, thinking they have no chance of defeating her. They think up a plan but realize they need 4 Tian-level weapons to succeed. Unfortunately, Fang Tian is not level 4. However, one clever weapon proposes an idea. He suggests that the remaining 3 Tian-level weapons should be absorbed by Fang Tian to enhance her power, and then they'd be able to defeat the cursed sword. The catch is that the absorbed weapons would disappear from the world. Let me just add that this moment made my eyes water. Loyalty above all. They decide to go for it, colliding and entering Fang Tian. When she emerges, Fang Tian is reborn with a new, incredibly strong power. Now possessing a 4 Tian level status, they stand a chance of defeating the formidable cursed weapon. The team's strategy takes an unexpected turn, injecting a renewed sense of hope into the battle. Chang Tian's group is now recharged and brimming with hope, believing they can defeat the Super Freak. The team unleashes a strong power, each of them releasing their energy towards Miss Super Freaky all at once. It's like a light show that ends in a nuclear explosion. Chang Tian can't contain his excitement, thinking they've finally landed a hit, but it's too early to celebrate. Miss Girl is not going down without giving it her all. She calls Chang Tian's father, asking him to be with her until the end, asking him to also provide her with more power. Daddy Dearest swears a blood oath and slashes his fingers. She then licks his blood, and they seal it with a kiss. What if that's nasty? Empowered with this new display of strength, the homewrecker is more confident than ever. She unleashes a powerful ball with Chang Tian's dad muttering incantations, and suddenly, all the buildings seem to disappear. The situation takes a mysterious and dramatic turn, leaving everyone on edge. All we hear is the Super Freak's maniacal laughing and her warning to feel despair. A big ball of light appears, and everything becomes even more confusing. Suddenly, the gang finds themselves in another dimension in front of that same enormous metal door from where Chang Tian summoned White. Then Daddy Dearest undergoes a transformation, emerging as a purple robot-like overpowered, impressive warrior, leaving our heroes utterly stunned. Chang Tian and White decide to perform their yin and yang divine installation and confront Chang Tian's dad, who is now in full robotic armor. Chang Tian becomes stronger and engages in a fierce battle, but the gap in power becomes evident when Chang Tian's dad effortlessly grabs him by the neck and lifts him off the ground. Daddy is obsessed with demanding Chang Tian give up White. He literally says anyone who gets in the way of him having his holy weapon should be eliminated. Chang Tian is certain that his dad won't hesitate to eliminate him either, considering the many lives he has already taken, including hurting his mom, who has been with him for a long time. This takes us back to a flashback where Chang Tian's mother and father are at home. Dad reveals that Chang Tian is the reincarnation of Emperor Tai. Mom asks Dad why he's so worried, but he dismisses her, claiming she knows nothing. He gets really aggressive and hateful, claiming it should have been him. However, the cunning girl keeps urging him, saying he should forcefully take the Hongming Heaven's Bell from his son Chang Tian. Dad agrees that only he deserves the Heaven's Bell. Talk about parental alienation. It turns out Chang Tian's dad was constantly tempted and eventually seduced by this woman. Chang Tian witnesses these memories, so he tries to intervene and stop his dad. Chang Tian's dad insists that Chang Tian should surrender his holy weapon, but Chang Tian is determined not to give it to him. Never surrender. He asks Chu about her well-being, but Chu responds that she's not doing well, and is struggling to breathe. Dad laughs and his dastardly plan is revealed. Chang Tian's dad divulges that he can utilize a special ability as he once was the manager of Shang Yuan Arsenal, and he declares that all their power will now belong to him. With this, Chang Tian's dad opens the huge door behind him. White senses that the door is slowly draining his power, and it's not just him. Other weapons are experiencing the same. Chang Tian remains undeterred. He steps forward, determined to stop his dad, even if it costs him his life. Chang Tian's dad now possesses all the power and decides to launch an overpowered attack. Shu and Jian Lu and the rest also come up with a plan. Utilizing their last remaining spirit power, they give it all to Chang Tian, risking their lives in the process. Chang Tian absorbs their spirit powers, unleashing a surge of light that completely transforms his appearance. He becomes a radiant being, fighting his dad with newfound strength. His eyes glow in yellow and purple hues. When his dad launches a barrage of arrows, Chang Tian effortlessly dodges them. In the heat of their battle, Chang Tian summons the past heroes of Tian Gang trials, and with their powers combined, he manages to defeat his dad, and just before his father completely loses control, Chang Tian reveals that his mom had always believed in his dad. Despite their victory, the mysterious door remains open, and White and the other holy weapons are fading away along with their powers. However, if Chang Tian really is the reincarnation of Tai Yi, he may hold the key to effortlessly closing the door. Suddenly, Changshan's physical appearance changes to that of Tai Yi. There's a beautiful bromance moment, and together they use their magic to, we assume, close the door. We don't see it happen, but it's safe to say it does. After that intense showdown, the scene quickly shifts to the present day. Shu, White, and the chairman of Tanzan Hall discuss the strange things that unfolded, wondering how they'd all managed to escape that strange dimension and why it all happened in the first place. Why would Changshan's dad do all those things just to end up evaporated? Chang Tian sits alone, deep in thought, on a bench in the park. White comes to get him, and off they go. In the meantime, someone elsewhere expresses the hope that Chang Tian will keep on surprising them. And just like that, the series wraps up. But hold on, it's not really the end, because who are those two mysterious figures in the final scene? Looks like trouble is brewing. Honestly, this anime throws more punches than most shonen ones out there. While the plot might leave you intrigued, I've got to be honest, the animation, subtitles, and voiceovers don't quite hit the mark. The artwork is decent, but the animation makes it feel a bit underwhelming at times. But despite its flaws, it's been quite a ride with plenty of action and surprises to keep you hooked. This anime also shines when it comes to how characters grow. Seriously, it's way better than most others out there. Take Chang Tian, for instance. Unlike some anime heroes, he's not caught up in a harem whirlwind and refreshingly doesn't focus solely on female characters. Shu is a breath of fresh air too. No cringy antics or forced flirting with Chang Tian, despite having feelings for him. White, the cool character with a tough exterior, turns out to be surprisingly kind and caring. And those other weapons. They might confuse you at first, but trust me, their loyalty is unmatched. Now let's talk about the gang's vibe. It's like listening to a thrilling gossip session about relationships, all while they're in the middle of intense battles that keep you glued to the screen. And oh boy, the plot twists. You think you got it all figured out, and then bam. Turns out that Chang Tian's dad is the ultimate enemy. Didn't see that coming, did you? I must say at first, I thought Mr. Yi was Changshan's papa. That man gave me the ick right from the start. I knew that daddy was no good. But it's not just about epic battles and surprising plot turns. As they navigate through the chaos, each character has their own struggles, digging up pieces of their past, their traumas and unresolved issues, which makes the whole story way more complex. My Holy Weapon isn't just about the flashy stuff. It weaves a tale that dives deep into everyone's lives, their deepest, darkest secrets and pain, hitting you right in the feels. Now, let's address the animation. It might not be groundbreaking, but when those visuals kick in during the epic battles, it amps up the excitement. Destiny is hanging on by a thread, and the anime really delves into the whole fate versus choices dilemma, making the story more gripping. And sure, you might predict some twists in the early episodes, but each one is a solid 18 minutes long, and we're talking about 16 episodes here. It's a roller coaster of a journey. My Holy Weapon doesn't completely flip the genre script, But what it does do is bring together a spellbinding combo of supernatural clashes and fantasy vibes that'll keep you hooked, all while teaching you to confront your past and deal with your problems. One standout scene that totally grabbed my attention was the epic face-off between Mr. Yi and White. But after the intense battle, we find out that Chang Tian's dad, who could have totally crushed both White and Chang Tian, decided to hold back. Now, why on earth would he do that? Well, my theory radar is buzzing, and I believe it's because he still cares about Chang Tian. I mean, it took him quite a while to turn his back on his son, right? So, could we be witnessing a potential tag team in the future? Who knows? Keep tabs on us because we're on the lookout for any recent revelations or upcoming seasons concerning this mind-bending tale. Now, I'm sure this anime has left you scratching your head with more questions than answers. What in the world happened to Mr. Yi and Ganjiang's kid? Is that little rascal living his best life somewhere? And who are those mysterious two figures in the finale? That girl looks suspiciously like the late Emperor Taiyi's wife. Did she betray the Emperor with another and let White take the blame? Am I onto something, or is it just my imagination running wild? Then there's the big mystery. Did Chang Tian's dad meet his end, or is he out there brewing some revenge plot? And what about Chu's feelings for Chang Tian? Talk about a love story amidst all the chaos. Now that Fengshen is rocking a 4-level Tian status, does that mean she's got more firepower than White? I'm swimming in confusion here, folks. Drop your thoughts below. Let's unravel this enigmatic tale together. And as we wrap up this journey through the mystifying world of holy weapons, let's give credit where it's due. All the clips you've seen are the handiwork of their talented creators. Our mission here is to plunge into the depths of this enthralling adventure filled with holy weapons and unholy plots. Before we part ways, make sure to hit that like button, and if you made it all the way to the end with me, don't forget to comment a kitty cat. This is your anime sensei signing off.